Okay, we're moving on to the oracle's courts. The next major chunk of card correspondences for you. This starts on page 76 in the Playing Card Oracles, goes through page 100. For sure, read the introduction to this section that starts on page 76. Just about a page and a half. Well worth your time. And here are the courts, all 16 of them. And they really are so archetypal. And we really have a very complete spectrum of archetypes in this system of card reading. It's one of the many things that I love about this way of working with cards. We have younger females, right, represented at the top there. We have younger males directly beneath them, commonly called the jacks, right? We have the queens beneath them and the kings beneath the queens. So we have young and old and male and female, and very evenly represented. Now, let's talk just a wee bit about the young females. This is, of course, not what we see in a modern day playing card deck. And yet there is historical evidence, strong historical evidence to support that at least some early decks had younger female cards within the court, that there were older males with the younger male cards, like the warriors and the kings, and there were older females as well as younger females like queens and handmaidens in the original decks. So part of what the Playing Card Oracles does is restore the balance of male and female to the court. And isn't that perfect for card reading? It's perfect. And so it's really a very hands-on, useful way of looking at personalities. And the truth is, we have each one of these personalities within ourselves. And you'll be finding yourself in each one of these characters. And this is part of a good study of self-knowledge. And we see how the male and female, as well as the younger and older characteristics, manifest through each of the four elements and really provide a wonderful language for this study that we're embarking on. So one way to start sorting out where you might fit within this spectrum of archetypes is through your astrological sign. Now, I mentioned how each one of us has each of the 16 court cards within us, and this is true. But there is a definite tendency toward particular court cards in people. And many times this is related to your astrological sign, right? Or your sun sign. Where was the sun when you were born? Are you an Aries, a Leo, or a Sagittarius? Well, you're likely to identify with the characteristics of the court cards in the diamond suit. If you're a Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, it's probable that you'll see, commonalities with the club court cards, etc. Also, personally, I can say that I often identify with the element associated with my moon sign, because I know a little bit about my astrology chart, and this is a wonderful study. And, you know, the cards will show you who you're showing up as, or which personality you happen to be acting out in any particular event. So if you're not that interested in astrology, or you just don't have that kind of orientation, never fear, you can work without it. But for those that do, this can be part of your study of the courts. Now, the way that the court cards work in card readings is different than the way that the lower numbered cards, or the pips, work in card readings. If you think of your cards laid out on the table as a little theater, okay, you have court cards and pip cards showing up in your spreads. Court cards are the characters in the play. You know, you've got here some kind of fairy character and some kind of other character. I don't know what's going on the screen here, but you've got two female characters. Maybe one could be represented by one of the queens. This figure on the right here with the long hair, she looks like she could be an older female, and the other one crouching on the ground could be a younger female. So this in my card spread could be represented by a queen, for instance, and a lady card. And what are they doing here? Now the pip cards come in. What those characters are doing, what experiences they are having, are the pip cards. Court cards, as they stand alone on your table, are just standing there waiting for a script, waiting for something to do, right? In this picture on the screen again, there's something happening. The older one is bestowing some sort of blessing or something on the one on the left, and you know, that could be represented by a pip card, maybe one of the swords, you know, the sword of healing or the sword of enchantment or something like that would represent what's taking place between the two characters that are the court cards. So this is the way courts and pips work in readings. Pretty logical, really. Now we need to take just a glimpse at each one of these court cards. Really, the best education that you will get for the courts is as you do the readings. You will learn about how they show up, right? Their characteristics, the way that they relate to the situations being represented, etc. But here are some keywords, as we did in the last video, that you can write on your playing cards. You should definitely journal these keywords, any other feelings or insights you have about these cards. But again, here's a cursory look. And we'll start with the diamonds. Tendra, the young female, right? Of intense focus and ambition. And of course, those fire characteristics are coming out in her personality. So again, if we think of the element of the cards, it illuminates everything. And if you read about this card in particular, in the Playing Card Oracles book, there in that section we already mentioned, you will glean more insight into the illustration here. This was a young woman of royalty, of wealth, right? Diamonds is often associated with wealth, who was basically a spoiled brat and wanted the man of her attention so badly that in the rashness of her selfishness, he became executed, and she's kissing the head there. So it's a card that warns about the dangers of becoming self-centered, which is one of the lessons of the fire suit. But sometimes it's really important to keep your focus, to have that focus, and often this woman will show up that way as the need to, bring forward that part of yourself. Fortuna, the next court lady of clubs, airy, playful, like the little wind, a little breeze that tickles you. She's here, she's there, she's unpredictable, flighty is a good word. We'll try to move through these a little more quickly. And again, if your intuition draws you or your curiosity, go look up any particular card in the court that you feel you want to know more about. Allegra, Lady of Hearts, passion over ration. I love the illustration here with her eyes blindfolded. She's out on the rocks in the middle of the water, right? The illustration says everything. She's pursuing the object of her affection. Rather foolishly, she doesn't care. She follows her heart, not her logical mind. And you can see there are little compass points around the pip on this card, the heart, indicating that she's following the compass of her heart, right? Her heart is sort of made into a little compass. I love that picture. Terrene, very meek and serving, often subservient. She's sitting on the ground. Isn't that illustrative? She's wearing some sort of like skin made out of hide or something as her dress there. She's very connected to the earth, and she really is a very positive card within the spade suit, representing many of the wonderful qualities about spades. And again, she can be subservient. Her mother is the Queen of Spades, almost like a Cinderella and stepmother kind of relationship. And a lot of these court cards you will find are better defined when you look at them within the relationships that they have with each other. So you could ask yourself this question in regard to any of these ladies: who's the mother? What kind of relationship might they have? Who's the father? Who's the king of the suit? Who's the brother? Who's the jack? All these things help define the personalities of the cards. Just more play you can do, and you will do, as you work with the cards. And the jacks, Dango is the rock star. He's out there walking the tightrope with little flames coming up off the rope. He's a daredevil. He's a showman. He's got panache, style going on there. And ego, for sure. Kind of a bragger. You could imagine all those kind of things with Dango. Lancelot, multi-talented. Lancelot's a very unique court. Fascinating read in the playing card oracles, if you feel drawn to it. He's a combination of clubs or air and water. You see in the illustration, he's bringing different realms together. And this is part of the legend of Lancelot. He's got this combination of talents. He's very visionary, which is part of the club suit, but he's also very sensitive, and he brings together many male and female aspects. Powerful card. L'Air. The quintessential boyfriend. It's natural when you think that he's the young male card in the suit of hearts, the suit of passion and love. And he again has an interesting illustration, much to be gleaned from these illustrations. He's got a knife behind his back, and the Jack of Hearts throughout the centuries has been a one-eyed Jack. This is a clue into his nature. Sometimes he can represent a thief, someone who's hiding something. And he's rather the flip side of the next Jack, Pampero, who shows the other side. Again, another historically one-eyed Jack, but the opposite side. So these two have an interesting relationship. In many ways, they're like two sides of the same coin. There's a great little poem in the playing card oracles. I think it's called The Two Jacks. And Pampero sort of has the things that L'Air does not. He's very loyal, whereas L'Air may be hiding something. Pampero is simply missing something. He doesn't have that dynamic quality that the hearts bring, but he's got the stability that the hearts lack. And if they were to show up in a reading together, that would be very powerful and could easily represent two parts of the same person, or two people who complement each other and complete each other. Lots of possibility there. The queens, Livia, Queen of Wisdom. Remember that fire or diamonds is the suit that has the sword of truth in it, right? That's the 7 of diamonds. Fire is the element associated with truth. And so Livia has gathered hard-won wisdom over the years. She's holding something of value within this urn that she's not exactly revealing, and yet it's a treasure. I like how she's holding it down at the level of her womb. This could represent someone who's with child, if that was the question being asked. Lots of possibility here. And she's very richly adorned, in keeping with the wealth of the diamond suit. Leah, club, queen of her realm of air. She is more concerned about her vision, her dreams, what she wants for the future, the power of the mind. And she brings the female aspect of that to a suit that can become overly rational, right? Clubs can be so mental, but she's mental in a creative way. And I like that about her. Deja, the calm within the storm. She has her eyes closed here. And I love when you look at the Queen here of Hearts next to the Lady of Hearts, right? Remember, we talked about cards being defined by their relationships to each other. We see both the queen and the lady who have their vision obstructed. The queen is doing this consciously by closing her eyes, almost meditative, whereas the lady is blindfolded. A big difference. And one of the demonstrations of how maturity ripens and enhances the qualities present in these cards. And then we have Morgana. She kind of looks like a stick to me. She's so stiff looking. She's strong, commanding. She can be a bitch, make no doubt. She's very independent. She can stand on her own. She can be lonely, right? All of these things. And don't we all know somebody like all of these cards in our lives? Aren't you thinking of people in your life as we're going through these? I am. And the kings, Leo. Now, remember, the kings are the highest numbered cards within their suit. So they have a way of expressing the maximum for their elements. So that makes Leo the big money card. If you have a question involving money and Leo shows up, this is jackpot time. It can represent someone who has a lot of resources. This is another court card that is traditionally pictured in profile. This is a pose that leaders often took historically to denote power. It's a pose of power, and it also leaves one side hidden. So Leo can have secrets, as leaders often do. They don't expose everything. Sol. Again, that club mental component coming in, but whereas the queen, remember Leah up in the clouds there, was the creative aspects of the mind, Sol is the more logical, linear, book knowledge manifestation of the club suit. When you see this card as someone should be teaching or going to school or has lots of study or a PhD or writers often show up as this card just because of the visual image, right? Look at that. I mean, he's got a book and a pen, so we use the illustrations. Nehemiah, king of merriment. He's so decadent, really, this king. He's got a big, mushy heart. He's sweet, generous, right? Maximum heart suit expression here. Wears his heart on his sleeve. Gives away more than he has. Overindulges. Food, wine, that kind of thing. I love the musical notation there on this card. That often comes in readings. Someone who's associated with music in some way. Music is a very heart suit kind of thing. It evokes our emotions. And Marduk, the heartless. He's the opposite of Nehemiah, right? As he stands alone, cards are better in combination, of course, as they start to supplement each other. But standing alone, Marduk is hard earth, ruthless, merciless. He's a businessman, and the bottom line is his business. And he's a leader, right? He's not like the Jack of Spades, who's the worker, the low man on the totem pole, right? King of commerce there. But not necessarily money, right? He can work really hard. And if there are no diamond cards in the spread, it's just hard work. So, just something to think about. Okay, now, time for a little play with your cards. And for now, just separate your court cards out from your other cards and start making little pairs. Start looking at cards in relationship to each other. And if you have ordinary playing cards as pictured here, make sure you look at the playing card oracle illustrations of the cards to get, more ideas for your play, more insight about the characters. And these are questions to ask yourself about these relationships. Play is such a huge part of getting to know your cards. It should be a continuing part of your practice. These are questions to ask as you play with court cards. How do these two characters get along? What might they do together? This is a married couple, right? Could be anyway, likely. But they're both so independent. Without heart cards here, it's all business with these two. So they might cook dinner together, change a kid's diapers together, make schedules together, right? That would be very spade of them. What would their conversations sound like? Where might they go together? And make different pairings and check it out. Okay, here's some more play with court cards. Now we've got more cards laid out on the table. Of course, think elements. In this particular example, just sort of mixing court cards around, laying out random possibilities. We've got two friends, possibly at the top. Just make up a story. Okay, there's two friends at the top, two guys. Maybe they work together. They certainly look like work with spades and diamonds together. Commerce and hard work. And we see the wife, doesn't have to be, but I'm making up a story. I'm going to make it the way I want it. This could be the wife of the King of Diamonds, but she plays a very subservient role to him, right? Just because she's underneath him, I'm going to make that part of my story. And maybe she's in charge of a sleepover with their daughter and another girl. Their daughter doesn't have to be in the diamond suit. Maybe she's a very emotional girl. The parents are very different than she is, and her friend is the 10 of spades. Just simple. And then you could ask questions or rearrange their relationship. Just start thinking in terms of these personalities. And here's another one. This could be two mothers getting together at the top and their two sons who like to hang out together. And I like how the two jacks are overlapping each other. And they're in complementary suits, right? Hearts and spades are compatible suits. And remember, the Jack of Hearts and the Jack of Spades were those two one-eyed jacks that complement each other. These two boys are joined at the hip, you know? And the two queens have a less compatible relationship, don't they? We'll get into this more throughout the workshop, but we see a little space between the two cards, right? Maybe they have kind of a polite relationship with each other. And their suits are not as compatible as the boys. Just an idea for a story, or, the starting place for a story. And so for sure, make sure you write down all of those key words that were in this video. Write those in your journal, jot them down on your cards if you need to, and we'll have a video on beginning to combine quartz and pip cards together in your play.